I predict a Duke's victory.
Boom! Welcome to another episode of the Crush Fantasy Football Podcast. Dolan, how does it feel to be back on the mic?
Dude, it feels good, but not a real mic like that sexy one you got over there. We were talking about that a little pre-pod. Crush City's Fantasy, moving up in the world.
Dude, I was hoping you'd comment on it. I set you up perfectly. Yeah, it's we got a blue, silver. That's all I got.
That's just masterful hosting right there too. I mean, you set me up to talk about what you want me to talk about. You know, you deserve that big mic for that one.
Exactly. Where are you? Where in the world? Where in Asia are you right now?
Still in Thailand. I've kind of committed to just like not wanting to deal with visas or anything. I don't have anything booked for the next couple weeks, but I think I'm just going to end up staying in Thailand until I got to go home in a couple weeks. Coming back the 29th. So we're getting close to the point where it feels like it's real again. The idea of coming home, but it's interesting. You know what I'm coming back home for. I'm speaking of things starting to feel real. How are you feeling? Less than a month out from a big day for you.
We're good. So we practiced dancing for the first time yesterday, which was needed. I'd say if I rated us 4 out of 10 for our
4 out of 10
first dance.
That's plenty of time to get
so basically, yeah. No. That's what I'm saying. If we
listening out there, James is getting married beginning of November
8th. So we probably won't release a pod that day, but I plan on recording. Let's do a wedding recap pod. No fantasy football, no football, all wedding stuff. I'll give because then we'll expand our listener base. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We're watching like YouTube shorts of these people like, oh, do these dance moves, and then they're short, so they're not explaining anything. They're just doing it. So you watch it, and then you pause to see where their arms are and see which arms are connected, and when the spin happens, and then you try to mimic it. And yeah, 4 out of 10. Alex would say I'm the problem. I would say we're equally the problem.
As a good husband would.
Wait, no, actually, so we have Snoop now. So for the listeners, Snoop is Dolan's dog that he hasn't seen in 2.5 months because he's traveling. Snoop hates it. Snoop hates it. The dancing. He stands right.
I thought you meant me being gone, but yeah, that's fair.
No. The dancing. He literally stands right under you. He looks up. He gets in your way. He can't. It's the most interaction Snoop's given in 3 days of having him. He hates it. He loves it. He either loves or hates the dancing. But
I think it's jealousy. I think whenever people show each other affection, he gets a little worried.
Oh, poor Snoopy. But he's doing good besides that. So you should know that.
Appreciate it.
I feel like we didn't hit Thailand enough. Where, like, what are you doing? What'd you do yesterday?
I just got to this place, Phuket, yesterday. I got in like pretty late. It was a big travel day.
Oh, I know Phuket.
Yeah. So right before that, I was actually in like what ended up being like one of my new favorite places, Koh Tao. It's this tiny little island in the Gulf of Thailand. And I basically just spent like 4 days in like crystal clear water, just like snorkeling. Had a super shitty day last Friday, because time difference. Woke up, and just what better way to start your day as an Eagles fan than watching them just get absolutely mollywopped by the Giants. So just went for a motorcycle ride after that to blow off some steam. Got in an accident, like nothing bad.
What?
Like, I just like fell going down a mountain. I just like slipped out. Just like scraped up my body. Like it's honestly mostly fine now. Like there's still some scabs. It was just more an ego bruise than anything. And then I had to pay like a couple $100 for damages to the bike. So we had a rough day last Friday, but then I realized like, you know what, I'm probably letting fantasy football get in my head too much while I'm in Thailand. And so I had a nice moment of peace after I got over that. Now I'm feeling good.
You said motorcycle ride. Like you're driving it? Is it one of those like little bikes or is it a real motorcycle?
Yeah, more like a scoot.
A dirt bike?
It was like a real bike. It wasn't like a huge, super powerful one or anything.
How do you
crazy.
know how to?
It was like.
Are they easy to learn? Okay.
I mean,
okay, so you learned it.
I guess not easy enough.
Dude, I feel like you're second guessing everything. Like DeAndre Swift late exchange for JMO. I feel like you need to reset.
I thought of an analogy for that one. It was like I woke up this morning before the game started, and so like Sunday night game, I should say, for people in the U.S. And I was like, okay, I'm down 9 points, and I have a flex spot to go and a kicker to go. And our kicker scoring is like kind of nerfed, but it's like you can expect 4 to 6 points from your kicker. So I was like, okay, JMO has had some absolute stinkers these last couple games, and it's like the last thing I want is him to just put a 1-pointer up, and it's like I know Swift is going to get 15 to 20 touches. If that gets me 6 points in the win, that's fine. It's like I'm up 1 with 45 seconds left. It's like, do I kick a 45-yard field goal or do I go for it on 4th and 3? And I was like, I'm just going to kick the field goal. Trust my defense here.
Fair. It's actually probably a good play, but obviously when JMO would have won it for you.
And now I have to sweat it out for a whole nother day.
I know. Dude, don't take out like a boat today or something or a prop plane. I'm worried about you now.
I'm only going to be transported by other people in my feet from here on out, I've decided.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. All right, let's start off. I don't know, Dolan, if you remember, since it's been so long, but we do this segment here called Take Montezuma, where we purge all of our...
Who's it sponsored by?
Oh, Take Montezuma, sponsored by Soiree Season. If you want a wedding registry company that won't crash its motorcycle, check out Soiree Season. Promo code will probably be ready in 2 weeks. That did not work.
Hey, the people know by now. The
promo. Check out Soiree Season. Yeah, Dolan, you're the one with the hot take today. You're the one that needs to purge because your system is backed up from all the pad CU. I probably pronounced that incorrectly.
A little bit, not too bad. I haven't had as many noodles as rice though, so not a ton of pad CU, but we're mixing it in there. But I will say this hot take is a football one, has a ton of bias in it as an Eagles fan, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it like I think the NFL loves the tush push. And I know there's so much heat about it, and like so many teams hate it, and they're like blah blah blah. They like teams from a competitive perspective want it out because they can't stop it, but it's making the NFL so much money because they talk about it constantly, and like it is just rage bait at its finest. It's like getting engagement numbers up in a way that I think the NFL secretly loves. They'll never admit it because they want it to be this controversial thing that everybody talks about. But I was watching the Eagles game 2 weeks ago, and they actually had subtitles on at the bar. So I was reading it, and like they run a tush push until like I think the third quarter in that game, but the announcer still brought it up like 7 times. And it's like they want to talk about this. Like they love the tush push. They pretend they hate it because they think that's good content and it gets the people going. But tush push is good for the game. It gets people fired up in a way that I think NFL media is in love with. And as an Eagles fan, it's a sick play. Like it works, and that's the whole reason people don't like it is because it only works for one team.
Good for the game and good for making the NFL money are two separate things. It's terrible.
What does the NFL care about?
It's a terrible product. Especially, I couldn't care less when they used to run it. Just okay, it's 4th and 1. Let's get the first down, or we're on the goal line. Let's score the touchdown. Now that they're doing it like 3 times in a row with 3 yards to go, it like once you start stacking them, it becomes I think exponentially worse. As I watching football product, it takes so much time off the clock, takes away from actual fun plays, and it's just half a yard. Oh, this guy might have false started. Half a yard. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I think everybody hates it, and I think it's getting banned this summer.
I do think it's going to get banned. I think that like teams are just tired of not being able to stop it. And like the vote is pretty close this year, and I'd be surprised if it swings the other way.
I was talking to my uncle. Go ahead.
How many times have you turned off a game or changed the channel because you saw the tush push come on. I don't think a single person who actually cares about football, who cares about it enough to tweet about it or get upset, has ever actually changed the channel.
No, but you stop paying attention. I legitimately, when they were on the 4 the other day and they ran it 4 times in a row, I was like, okay, we already know the outcome here. I stopped watching, at least for those 8 minutes, whatever it was. Between the commercials and all the it really was 8 minutes. My uncle, I was talking to my uncle and cousin about this yesterday. Actually, they had a better idea. All QB sneaks under center should just be banned. Not just Jalen Hurts.
That was my other counterpoint too. Is like what is fun about watching a normal QB sneak? Just the
exactly. No, agreed. No, I agree.
Like,
all QB sneaks.
A halfback dive up the A gap, that much more fun than a QB sneak. That's kind of where I'm like, where do you draw the line? I guess
that's what I think.
Like,
QB sneaks under center.
People are pissed at. I don't think it's that people are pissed about the push. People are just pissed that it works.
Yeah, QB sneaks under center, I think, is where they should go. Take it one step further. And obviously QBs can run. That's a fun part of the game, but you just can't do it under center. So you have to be at least two yards back or whatever. I think right. That will be a happy medium for you biased Eagles fans who just like the Jalen Hurts 1 yard rushing touchdowns.
I mean, what's next? Start saying we can't throw the ball to Jaxon Smith-Njigba because that's unstoppable too. That's crazy.
I'm not going to comment. I think we should sometime have a real fantasy discussion, though, about Jalen Hurts if it gets banned. I think it would be an interesting discussion.
Okay.
As like a dynasty asset. All right, that is Take Montezuma, probably the worst one I've heard in a while, and Tanner threw out 11 the other day. All right, Take Montezuma, sponsored by Soiree Season. Use promo code. Link will be ready in 2 weeks, potentially. Or Crush FF. All right, Dolan, what we're doing today is we are going to go look at some real dynasty trades that have happened in our main Dynasty Fantasy Football League. But I think we're going to, as like an analysis, we're going to try to apply a broader context. Like, what was this team thinking? Why did they do it? Was it a good trade? What we like about the trade, what we dislike about the trade. From a general dynasty discussion, not and a specific league discussion, I think. Anything to add to that before we jump in?
No, listeners will know as they tune in, but like you and I have both been pretty active on the trade block here. So I'm just excited to, hear a little bit more about the strategy because I know you and I have been in a lot of trade talks recently, and I feel like we've gotten close, but haven't quite got over the edge there. So I know a lot about where your head's at and where you're thinking, and want to hear a little more behind the scenes. So
I'll set these all up, and then I think the first one we'll start with you for kind of what you were thinking because it involves you, and then we'll kind of go one by one. All right, the first trade and probably the biggest one, at least in hindsight, it looks like it. Dolan received Jaxon Smith-Njigba for a 26 first of Jackson's, which right now projects to be like a mid-first, a 26 first of Jake's, which right now is projected to be an early first, a 26 second of Dolan's, kind of mid-second, and a 27 second of James, let's call it a mid-second. Just quickly off the top.
You can call it late. Kind of chest a little bit.
I'm not cocky like that. Keep trade cut has you losing this trade from a kind of 11,000 to kind of 17,000 value. Trade calculator also has you losing this trade as kind of 8,600 to 10,000. But I think we both liked it.
What's the like similar player? Do you have it pulled up now? Where it's like you're this player or this pick away.
I can pull it up while you talk, but I do not have it up. Give me a sec.
Okay. I'll let it rip then. While you're pulling that, thank you for doing that. But yeah, this was pretty simple. I had 4 first-round picks in my pocket. One of which was from a trade we'll talk about in a little bit. And they were kind of just burning a hole in my pocket. I knew I was going to start the season off a little slow, having Rashee Rice on my team. And so I'm pumped that we are now past the 6-game suspension, and it's looking like it's going to be wheels up for him. And then having CeeDee Lamb on this team also just meant I really needed some juice. And so I was kind of on the fence. I was actually shopping around CeeDee Lamb to see, like, okay, like I'm 1-4 at one point, and I need to figure out what my next move is, like potentially saying, hey, I'm just going to do a quick punt because it's been so hard to buy stars was available. But then JSN became available. And, you know, I think there's very few players that are worthy of like 3 first-round picks. And I couldn't quite get there with JSN. But we ended up settling on the 2 firsts and 2 seconds, which felt like a good compromise for me. It's definitely hard to give up Jake's pick because it is looking like that's going to be top 3 with, you know, strong chance at being the 101. But, you know, we've talked about this on this pod a couple times and definitely offline. It's just so hard to get the absolute star players. And I think JSN's floor on a weekly basis is as good as it gets. And I figured, you know, he's the type of guy, whether you're rebuilding or trying to contend right now, you want on your roster because he's 23 years old. He hasn't posted less than 90 yards in a game so far this year. He ended last year on an absolute heater. And it just looks like he's going to be a star for years and years and years. And I think he's bordering on, if not already in, the top 5 receiver conversation. And so I just said, I will gladly make that trade. I'm still holding on to my own first-round pick in case it still doesn't work out. And I'm very happy with the results right now. He rounds out a receiver core that's going to be getting Rashee Rice and hopefully CD back this week. Then this bumps Marvin Harrison into my wide receiver 4 slot. So I'm who's trending in the right direction. And I think that's just how I really like to build my team. It's just with like a star-studded receiver cast, and all of these guys have a minimum 3 good years in front of them. So I'm pumped. I know that was a little long-winded there.
No, I pulled it up before my thoughts. Players, so the trade calculators like Johnny's side better. Players to even trade, at least on keep trade cut, which I think is the more dramatic of the 2 calculators. Justin Herbert, Ashton Genty, Drake May, Jonathan Taylor. Insane, wow. I think. I think it's insane too because I'm with you. The star players are really, really hard to get. And I don't know if 3 weeks ago I would have put JSN in that category, but where we are now, it's impossible not to put JSN in that category. If Puka's legitimately hurt, and as of right now, I think October 13th morning, like we don't know the extent of Puka's injury, I think JSN is the wide receiver 1 rest of season. His connection with Darnold and the target consolidation, I mean, just look at this pass game. JSN had more targets than the rest of the pass catchers combined. I think that is an incredible kind of walk into type of player for you there. Especially because it doesn't seem like it's going to change. Darnold's there and playing well for the foreseeable future. JSN, like you said, he's young and he's a star. And so, yeah, this has aged, I guess we're 3 weeks after it. This has aged really, really well for you. And you've somehow managed to acquire those like golden geese, those guys who aren't acquirable. Those, I'm not going to call them Jamar Chase, but these guys typically you can't get. You have to buy a tier lower, and we're going to talk about mine. And somehow I think you got it with this trade. I think the way it could hurt you, and just to play a little devil's advocate for Johnny, obviously there's a lot of picks in there. So if Jakes becomes the 101 and somehow Jackson misses the playoffs and it's a top 4 pick, obviously that's not ideal. And then, so who knows how the seconds will fall. But yeah, I think on the surface, this is a really good trade. It's going to be a shame though, if you lose this week and it's like, it's going to, let's call it's going to be an uphill battle for the playoffs. Right. But JSN should help that.
Yeah. My rationale with that too was also like, we have these weekly payouts. It's like, if I put JSN in and get these other 2 receivers healthy, I'll at least put a few bucks in my pocket. Just because of him. But yeah, I'm with you. And the way it kind of shook out in my head was I felt like if that worst case scenario, that pick is the 101 and Jackson's like the 104 or so, I think those 2 picks alone, you know, in the off season, not necessarily right now, are probably about fair for what I thought JSN was. I think the 101 this year isn't looking as good as it has in years past. Obviously that a lot can change. between now and the future. But 2, obviously, it's not guaranteed to be the 101, even if it's early. Yep. And so my rationale was like, I think worst case scenario, barring catastrophic injury or anything, I'm overpaying by about 2 seconds, which I'm more than happy to do, to just get the bird in the hand now and have him for this whole season. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it. I can obviously keep going on and on, but yeah, let's hear. I'm sure your rationale for this next one. You want me to keep going? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it from Johnny's perspective, because it's actually more interesting. It confuses me because Johnny, just for the listeners, right? Johnny, if he doesn't have the best team, he has one of the probably 2 or at worst 3 best teams. He's in a win now mode and was probably the favorite to win it all going into the year. And his receiving core isn't that deep. And so I think it's very interesting. From what I can gather, just like talking to him, it seemed like he was going to get some draft capital because he thought it was a fair deal. And like you said, maybe a 2 seconds overpay. And he was going to try to turn around and get someone else with that. I think probably his first choice was the guy I got. But now that didn't happen, it just befuddles me even more. He probably wasn't evaluating JSN at the time as the number 1 overall receiver rest of season. But he was obviously off to an incredible start even when he traded him. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What was the rationale there? Why would he do this?
I think it was kind of him almost galaxy braining himself. I think he kind of saw, similar to what I saw when I thought about trading CD, like, hey, these stars are like at an all-time high in terms of price right now. And I think he did think JSN was probably going to cool down a little bit, but what do we know? He traded him right before he heated up even more. And I think he just looked at it as, I think he was very coy when he was talking with me, like not trying to show his interest in Jake's pick, but I think he saw an opportunity to get the potential 101 plus a good bit more on top of it. And I think he just looked at it and said, this is my best way to prolong my dominance, is by turning JSN into hopefully 3+ helpful pieces who may not reach that caliber. I don't agree with the timing.
Pieces he can't use right now, right? He's all things considered a contender.
Where the Commander's bias comes in. I think he's confident that once Jaden Daniels is back and up and running, like he can just trot out Scary Terry and Debo every week as his receivers and figure out the flex spots with some strong running backs, and one of which is also Commander, of course. But I think he's making the bet there. And then also, like you said, I think he's looking to move, maybe not the 101 now, but I don't think he's just going to sit on his hands, which he made a smaller move, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's still trying to creep up from the trade we'll get to in a little bit.
Yep. All right, let's move on. So the next trade.
Wait, real quick, before we move on, give me a grade.
Oh, great.
Give Johnny a grade.
I'm going to give you, man, it's hard not to get like A-. Honestly, just recency bias, how great he's playing. I'll give Johnny a C+.
I like it. All right, over to you.
Okay. The next trade. So I got Drake London and a 2026 fourth round pick for a 2027 first round pick, my own, a 2026 second round pick with Luke. So think of that as a really early second round pick. And we're only a 10-team league, so that's going to be somewhere between the 11, 12, 13.
Pick.
Yeah, top 12 pick. And then Matthew Golden. Keep Trade Cut has me as a loser of kind of 9,400 to 12,000. Trade Calc is a little closer, has me as 6,500 to 6,900. So my rationale is my team's 4-1, now 5-1, and playing very well. I think I have a legitimate shot this year to make the playoffs and win it all. I have 3 every week starters at running back, but I want, like, if I wanted a fourth guy that can just be a set it and forget it. I don't have to look at the matchups. I'm playing him every week, and I'm not thinking twice about it. I also think Drake London is a little undervalued just because of the slow start to the year. I think there's no reason he's not going to be a top 10 receiver in Dynasty for kind of the next 4 years, and he'll help this year. So, like, kind of a tier up of my receiver room. So I like him for the spike weeks, and like I said, for not having to choose kind of, oh, Olave has a good matchup, or Tet has a good matchup this year. And so I think kind of tiering up was something that I needed to do. And then to the Matthew Golden piece, I like Golden. I took him 17th overall last year, but he's more of a dart than anything else, which there's been some signs in the good way, some signs in the bad way. I think the way I really lose this trade is obviously he becomes a star, but he wasn't seeing my lineup this year every way. I'm pretty deep at receiver, and so he's probably going to stay on the taxi squad all year. So I was like, let me package a 27 first, which I'm hoping my team kind of carries over year and is still pretty good next year, so that's not going to be an early first. And then kind of my best second round pick this year, and then Golden. So that was my thought process going in. What do you think, Dolan?
No, I think it makes perfect sense. I think after the start you got, like, you were very much in a position to continue putting your foot on the accelerator. And I agree. I think London was really valued by, like, a really good value, I should say. Like, I do think he's one of those guys who we could blink and 3 weeks from now, you know, he's getting talked about the way JSN does, because JSN cools off a little bit and he heats up. And so, like, I think, you know, they're probably both still in that same tier of knocking on the door of Chase and Jefferson, and potentially whoever else you want to put in that tier. So love that move for you for, you know, same reasons I like JSN. I think the only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation is I generally philosophically do not like trading away my picks that are more than a year away. So that gives me a little bit of heartburn just because you never know what can happen. But I think you feel pretty confident that you're getting London, who's 22, 23, 24 years old. It's not like you're doing it for Devontae Adams or something like that, where you're like, this is a purely all-in move. So I really like it from your perspective, and I really, you know, talking about the other side, I hate it from Jake's perspective. I think he's just frustrated that he hasn't won yet. And, you know, for context, Jake came into this season with a team that I think we all thought was going to be pretty good and was just underperforming a ton. Like, London is one of those examples. And I just don't think he needed to sell, because, like, I don't think has a roster that's in need of a multi-year rebuild. I think if he wanted to punt and say, I can do something for 2026 to make my team better, like, sure, but, like, getting a 2027 first doesn't really help that. I like Matthew Golden, but he seems like a guy to me who's going to top out in the Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams tier. Like, I don't see him ever becoming more valuable than those guys, so I think it's pretty easy to justify getting off of him. And so, like, I would have wanted 2 firsts on top of a Golden type player for London, and I think getting it for, I'm guessing you sold him on Luke's being basically a first. I know you tried that on me, and it seemed to have worked. But I think what also really bugs me is, like, you told me the offer Johnny gave him, which was Jake's first back, and I think a future first from Johnny. Like, if I'm Jake, I think
28 though.
Johnny's 28.
Johnny's 28, and then Jake's 26.
Yeah. Like, if I'm Jake, I think his 26 first alone this year is probably worth everything you gave him. And then he's getting a future. Like, I get that a future first might not be super appealing, but you're getting that on top of that. And if he has it himself, he can control his own destiny too, so he doesn't have to, like, I don't know. I hate this move for Jake. I'm sorry, Jake. I love you, but bad move.
Yeah, Jake continues to trade his good players for pieces, and now he has 1 million pieces, and they're not bad pieces, right? Honestly, his Giants look to, like, be working out completely, and so I don't know. I don't think the team was that far, and I think even trading Trey McBride, and, like, he's replaced him really well with Tyler Warren, but it just seems like a lot of trading for things, and so now he has, like, 1 million assets, and eventually probably he'll be like, wow, I need to consolidate into a Drake London. And so that's where I'm with you. One question, though. Is there QB risk here with, let's call it Penix, that I'm not valuing? Because I just said Drake London's a safe top 10 dynasty receiver for 4 years. I think I believe that, but there's a part. Okay, you don't think so? You think he'll
I
be
don't,
solid and have the job?
QB
And
proof enough.
Okay.
Like, obviously, if we get back into the point where they're trotting out as bad as Desmond Ridder, like, he was even a flex-worthy guy in that scenario. Like,
well, his first 2 years were bad. London.
Yeah. And so, but I think he's taken his game individually to another level. Penix clearly loves targeting him. I think the OC, who knows how long that coaching staff's going to be around. I think they're mixed bag. I don't think they're on the hot seat, but I don't think they're secure either. But I just think he's so talented that, Penix is going to hyper-target him if they get someone new in there. Like, if I'm a rookie quarterback or if I'm someone trying to make a name for myself in the NFL, I'm just like, I'm going to throw it to that dude. And he's going to make me look good more often than not. So it could go south, but I think it's more – I think you win that trade – not necessarily win, but I think you're happy with that trade 4 times out of 5 at a minimum.
I'd be shocked if Penix didn't at least have a pretty long leash. One, because they don't have any first-round picks coming up, and they're in that weird range of they're not going to be picking in the top 3. And so I'm not sure they're picking stud quarterbacks. They're paying Kirk Cousins a ton of money. So it would seem that this Penix thing, they're going to at least do everything they can to try to make it work for 2 to 3 years. All right, what's the grade? Grade for me, grade for Jake.
I think pretty easy. I'm going to stay away from pluses and minuses. I think pretty easy A for you. And I think I can't give Jake anything higher than a D. I'm sorry. I just not a good move offloading a 24-year-old star receiver when you're just for, like we said, pieces. You got to have some anchors, and London's an anchor.
Man, first one to give Jake a D since Andre. All right. Moving on.
Next trade here is another one of yours, so I can take a tee up. I think this is the missing link between, or I guess following suit, however you want to call it, between the move that I made with Johnny and the move that you made with Jake. I think both teams, both you and your trade partner here, did a little bit of replenishing of what they gave up.
Yep. So I traded DK Metcalf for a 26 second of Dolan's here, which right now it's looking good, but let's call it mid, and my own 27 second. So second this year, second next year. The trade calculators actually thought this one was pretty even. They had Johnny winning, or they had me winning, essentially 6,000 flat to 63, and then trade calc had Johnny winning 34 to 3,000. So honestly, this was the closest trade from the calculators of the two. My rationale was I just traded for Drake London. I have an abundance of receivers. So Drake London, BTJ, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Ted McMillan, Rashid Shaheed, and then Luther Burden on the taxi. So I figured this is a good time to move DK to get kind of draft pick currency to be a little more flexible when I want to make, if and when I want to make later moves, either this year, off season, whatever. Let me just double click on that for a second. Draft picks generally are universally valued by kind of, let's call it most people, where somebody like DK Metcalf might not be. You either have to like the player, you have to like the situation, you have to need a receiver. So I was thinking, okay, it'll be easier for me to trade these seconds than it'll be to trade DK Metcalf, the player. So I wanted a little more flexibility for later things. And I honestly don't like DK's outlook longer term. I think he's like a little bit overperforming this year. I mean, he's 49th, at least before yesterday, in expected fantasy points. So it's not like he's getting the insane volume that we thought he was going to get. He's just scoring touchdowns. And Rodgers is, I don't even know how old he is, 40, 41?
43,
oh my God. I like it even less. Yeah, it just seems like, and he's stuck with the Steelers. So it's just hard to paint a rosy picture for DK, at least the next kind of 1 to 2 years. And so I was like, okay, a chance to offload him for fair value. I was like, and I don't need him as an every week guy. I was like, let me get ahead of this and let's offload him. That was my thinking.
Yeah. I think it makes a ton of sense. We've talked about this separately. Like you say, the flexibility. I always view it as liquidity. Like I think exactly like you said, draft picks are always going to be valuable, and it's like second round picks. Like it's I feel like at least in our league specifically, you're not really getting anything for a second straight up, but they're all like almost always a great like missing link where it's like we're close on a trade. All right, I'll throw you in a second. So I think it just opens so many doors for you, and they're just an asset that you have no doubt in your mind will be worth more 9 months from now when everybody's in draft mode. So I love it. And like you said, now you have Drake London in one of those locked and loaded spots. And so like DK became pretty redundant. So I think the move makes a ton of sense for you. I also think it makes a lot of sense for Johnny for similar reasons. He weren't the exact seconds he got. Or I guess they were the exact seconds he got, right?
Exact seconds he got. Exact seconds he got. Yep.
Traded DK Metcalf or traded JSN for DK Metcalf in 2 first, which I think when you look at it that way is like a little more favorable for him, depending on how he individually feels about DK. But yeah, I think this was a move based on both of your respective trades that makes a ton of sense for both of you. I don't think either one of you particularly like hit it out of the park. I think just a good solid trade, and I would say probably B for both of you.
What would you have done? So originally, he eventually retracted this offer. He offered a 28 first for DK and gave me the choice between those 2 seconds that I took, 27, 26 second, or a 28 first. Which would you have done?
First. I think just time value of, I think time value money is like a little overrated here. I would just
the first
having it that
next
far
to
out,
it.
but it's like, that's just like starting DeAndre Swift. It's no fun, but like it's probably going to work more often than not. And it's like, especially because Johnny's team is kind of in that win now mode. I think the fact that it's later is like honestly more appealing than if you were to get his first just next year or whatever. Like I think he'll still be good in a couple years, but a lot can change. So I think in general, unless we're talking like 2 Luke seconds or a Luke and a Jake second this year, I'm almost 10 times out of 10 taking
the first,
the 28 first.
Yeah. All right, you gave us a B. I think there's not much to add there. To connect all the dots. I think what Johnny was trying to do was to go get Drake London with Jake's first, and so I think that's how it all shook out. All right, next trade. So Luke, our friend Luke. Luke got Daniel Jones and J.K. Dobbins and a 26 fourth with you. Dolan got a 26 first, which is Jake's, which is let's call it the good pick that we've been referencing, and then 10 fab. Keep trade cut has Luke winning this one, kind of 9,400 to 8,000, and then trade calc has it pretty even, 58 to 5,400. All right. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I think this for me was just purely a value grab. Is as simple as it was. Like what we were talking about with Jake selling London for pieces. I thought this was a really good opportunity to do the opposite and sell a little high on Daniel Jones, who I still think is a pretty good quarterback for fantasy purposes. I do think he's going to be a solid QB2 for at least a couple more seasons. I think this is not just a hot flash like how well he's doing right now. But I think this was before either of us really understood how bad Jake's team was for context. So I was definitely viewing it as like a mid first, not necessarily an early first when I got it. I think Luke was doing the same, which he might be kicking himself for. But it was kind of as simple as like, these are 2 guys who, when my roster's at full strength, are on my bench. And even though they're like good, solid depth pieces, I thought that first was more likely to help my odds of winning a championship in the next 2 to 3 years than either of those players were, even if I'm having to take that short-term step back now. Obviously always open to the idea of flipping that pick, which I ended up doing. But I just liked, again, that liquidity that the pick gave me. And I think at this point when I made the trade, I wasn't quite as bad, but I was at least like 1-2, 1-3. And so I was like, it may be okay to start trending in that direction. And I do think there's just some value in kind of zagging when everybody else is zigging. Like early in the season, everybody's like, oh, screw your picks. I don't care, whatever. Like, I want to be good. I want to be scoring points. And so I thought there was a little bit of an opportunity to kind of go against the grain there and grab some value. And I guess just the funny little tidbit, like told Luke, I was like, yo, just toss me like $10 a fab, because if I'm getting rid of Daniel Jones, like I want to be able to put in a fat bid on Jake Browning, which $50 of fab not well spent. He got cut yesterday, but cut by me at least, probably not far behind for the Bengals. But yeah, that was my rationale. Just felt like a good time to cash in on some pieces that I thought were probably at peak value.
So in Luke's defense, I think you referenced it. This trade was before week 3, so Jake was only 0-2 at that point and not 0-6 or even 0-4. I think Luke probably, even if Jake's 0-3, he might hold this. I hate this for Luke. My personal opinion is to really do a successful teardown and rebuild, you're going to have to hit on 1 to 3 guys whose value grows like exponentially into like real superstars. And whether you keep them or flip them or whatever, kind of like Tanner and Malik Neighbors. Daniel Jones and J.K. Dobbins aren't that, especially J.K. Dobbins. I think you can make an argument that Daniel Jones is good value. J.K. Dobbins is a running back on a 1-year contract who has the most checkered injury history ever. That should be the type of guy that Luke in his stage is avoiding like the plague. I get it. We talked about when he was on, we talked about playing for not last, but that guy in itself, I think is a terrible trade for Luke. And obviously it hasn't worked out with Jake's record. I didn't love it for you at the time. I liked it. I think I didn't love it. It obviously worked out getting JSN. So whatever. But I think I don't trust Kyler Murray. So honestly, I thought Daniel Jones could be a fairly valuable piece for you. Mm-hmm. And J.K. Dobbins has been really good this year, kind of until this week. And so I thought you needed the RB depth. And I actually still probably need the RB depth. And so I wasn't like a home run. Obviously, it has worked out since. But yeah, so I get it, right? You're just trying to get a good asset for what you considered mediocre assets. Was there any part of you that's like, oh, this Daniel Jones thing is a facade and I'm selling high and he's not going to have a job next year?
Part of me, yeah. I mean, I think you always have to account for that in the range of outcomes when you're evaluating these things. But no, I do think he's good. I think he deserves to be a starting NFL quarterback, and that guy's going to have value no matter what. I do think his numbers were a little inflated because he had like 3 rushing touchdowns those first 2 weeks, which I think probably helped him a little bit. But I think like come this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel Jones is just going for a late first. Like if he signs a contract extension, he'll be worth like a late first-round pick in general.
Definitely.
Probably. And so my general rationale was, yes, I'm worried about Kyler, but Stafford as my QB3 plus Browning, I was like, I can probably play matchups. I can at least get through this season. And I'm pretty bullish on this quarterback class in general. So I was like, okay, if I need to find a long-term answer, hopefully at least one of those 3 names, or well, I guess one of the 2 names. I'm not planning on Browning being anything more than a 1-year guy. But, hopefully Stafford plays 1 more year and Kyler doesn't, lose his job next year or whatever. And then I can get someone to groom and put in the pipeline or trade next offseason. So I was definitely thinking long-term quarterback. I'd be fine at quarterback both long and short-term. And I think the highs of, because I do, even though I didn't think Jake's pick would be top 3, I was like, hey, you never know. I do think the ceiling case there was the best. And so that's what just swung it for me, even if the package, I think, had a pretty good floor.
Yeah. If I had to grade it, I think I'm giving Luke a D. It's hard to, I would have given you, I got to separate like outcomes. I think I would have given you a B- or a C. I probably would have given you a C+ at the time. But obviously it's worked, like turning it into JSN is kind of a win-win. So yeah, I think that's my grade. Luke, hold on to those first, brother.
I know, I honestly felt a little bad. I was like, I don't want to take a first from Luke here, but I want the first. So, sorry, Luke. Sorry.
Do you want to do Darnold real quick, or you want to talk Goddard?
Let's do Goddard. It'll be quick, and then we can pivot to roasting a couple of our friends and take a little more of a backseat.
All right, the last one that we were involved in. Honestly, me and you have been involved in essentially all the big trades this year. So last night,
this one big, but we gotta get it in there.
This one's not big. Last night I traded. I don't even know what I traded. I traded a 27 second and a 26 fourth for Dallas Goedert. I don't like this. This was an emotional trade. I tried not to make emotional trades, but Dallas Goedert played his way onto my team. So I was playing Luke this week. He had an incredible game this past Thursday, and he's had a really good season overall. I think he's had 2 games with kind of 30% target share. He scored a ton of touchdowns. I get it. That's probably going to regress. But honestly, I'm just tired of Juwan Johnson and TJ Hawkinson and Harold Fannin in my tight end spot. Like I said earlier, I think I have a pretty good team to compete most weeks, and I don't want to lose games because of the tight end matchup or the tight end spot. And I think I needed a upgrade, and Goddard should be not a top 5, but probably somewhere between the 5th and the 10th tight end every week going forward. And so that's what I was thinking. I would just get a small upgrade. I wouldn't pay anything this year. But now that Njoku's kind of hurt, and I probably could have just played Harold Fannin, I'm a little regretting this. What do you think?
Yeah, so as an Eagles fan, obviously I've watched more than my fair share of Dallas Goedert, and I think he's an extremely talented football player. Like, as far as talent goes, I think he's unquestionably a top 10 tight end in the league. I'd say he's bordering on top 5, but that's probably a little biased if we're being real here.
Yeah.
And I do think he's had a really good start to the season because I think defenses have done everything they possibly can to shut down A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. And so that's why we've really seen, from a fantasy perspective, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert have been the 2 biggest beneficiaries there. And I do think that's probably going to regress a little bit. Like, AJ and Saquon are not going to stay quiet for this long. And I do think that will probably come at the expense more so of Goddard than Smith. But he does have the benefit of, like, he's never going to become the focal point of a defense. And so, like, I think Patullo clearly has some cool, cheeky plays for him available in the red zone, which is, I think, the reason you should be most excited, because none of the previous OCs in Philly really featured tight ends in the red zone a lot. And I think he's a really good red zone weapon. So I don't love to, like you said, betting on touchdowns a ton, but I think if there's a guy to do it, like, he's one you do feel pretty good about. And the hope is less so on Goddard in particular here. I think it's that the Eagles offense just kicks it into gear, and they're a team that's scoring, 30-plus points more often than not, and he's just a byproduct of that. Because the one thing that Goddard is really good about is his per-catch numbers. I actually haven't looked at him a ton for this year, but in general, he's always been, like, great at picking up chunk gains because he just gets so wide open on, like, a seam route, and it's just, like, 15 yards here, 19 yards there, 27 yards here, 18 yards here. And it's like, he's a guy who can thrive on low volume, even if that's not what you want to bank on. So I think if I'm grading this for you, I probably give it like I'm torn between a B and a C. So I'll say a B minus, even though I don't like doing minuses, just because I think your emotions probably did come into play a little bit. I would have probably rather held on at least another couple weeks, just because you are in a position where you don't need to push now and be like, okay, would I rather give up these picks and Harold Fannin to get an even better tight end? I think is why I don't love it, but I understand it. Like, I think that was the one hole, similar to what we were talking about with London earlier. Like, your roster's ready to compete. You're trying to win a title right now. And I think, if you raise the floor at least a little bit at the tight end spot, which was your clear weak link, that's easily worth a second and a fourth in the long run. And then looking at it from the Luke perspective, I do think this is a pretty clear A for him. Like, Goddard's 30 now?
31.
Not 31. So,
or almost 31.
Almost 31. Yeah. So not the type of guy that really belongs on Luke's roster. And I like Goddard again, but not a true needle mover. So I think good for him to just cash out and start, sticking to his guns on the strategy that we both agree he needs to stick to.
Yeah. One other thing is I didn't factor this in, but there could be some contingent upside if I don't know if you think AJ Brown's going to get traded, but obviously Goddard becomes okay. So if that's not possible, then What do you think Goddard's
crazy, bro?
2-year outlook?
Like restructured his contract to stay an Eagle. This year he took basically like a team-friendly deal. They let him test free agency and the market wasn't great for him. So I kind of think he was like wanting to get the bag this offseason and didn't. So I would not be terribly surprised if he's not an Eagle next year. Granted, their backup tight ends are terrible. Like, I don't know why they keep running all these multi-tight end sets, but that'll open a whole another can of worms. So I think they really need him. So I'm very curious to see what they do this offseason. But I could see a team that's in need of a tight end and has a little more cap space and less other weapons shelling out to get him. So I think he's a guy who, if he signs a favorable contract this year, you could easily just be like, all right, I'm just going to get a second and a third back, or even just a second, and be like, that season alone was worth the fourth.
Yep. All right. I think that was the least interesting of all our trades today, but let's do one more that doesn't involve us. So our friend, I don't remember what he called himself, Donnie G Baby, got Sam Darnold and a 27 third. And Jake got a 26 first of Don's and Michael Carter. So Keep Trade Cut has this as a pretty big win for Jake. I think 6,000 to 8,700, and then Trade Calc had it as basically dead even. So and just heads up, I put the calc numbers in kind of a couple days ago, so if they're updated, they're updated. But you kick this one off.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the Don side, I guess, because I think Darnold is probably in a very similar tier to what we were talking about with Daniel Jones, right? Where it's like he's probably just, obviously, this book shows it here, right? Or this trade shows it right here. He's probably worth about a first-round pick. And so if, you strip away the Michael Carter in the third, that's basically what this trade was. Those were kind of, I feel like, just the final pieces to cross the T's and dot the I's. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for Don. He has a really good team that I think we've talked about, but it's just, I think he knew that he wasn't going to win it all without Joe Burrow this year. And so he was just like, you know what? Cam Ward's clearly not going to be someone I have any confidence in this year. So let me get another guy that I feel pretty good about starting every week alongside Bo Nix. And, his QB room's not elite now by any stretch. I know Darnold's been looking awesome lately, but I think, with the rest of his team, it makes a lot of sense, because I do think, Darnold is like one of those guys who we're going to look back and like 3-5 years go by and it's like, oh, he's still starting in Seattle. Like, if he gives you QB2 numbers for 3 to 5 more years, you're really happy. Like, I actually, one trade that popped in my head, I think it was probably 2 years ago now. It was like right after, I think, Goff's first season in Detroit. Maybe that was 3 years ago now. I saw a very similar trade where it was just like Goff went straight up for a first in another dynasty league I was in. And my initial reaction was like, ooh, I don't really like that. This was in the off season too. So it was like when picks were at their most valuable. But like looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, no brainer. You give up Jared Goff for like, I think it was like a mid to late-ish first, like probably 107 or so. And I think like Goff owners super happy with that trade right now. And I feel like Don could put himself in that position without too much trouble. And then I think for as much shit as we've given Jake's team so far, he is nothing if not deep at quarterback. And I think, he's probably saw, Jackson Dart showing some promise, got him excited there. And so I think, between Dart, Stroud, who else does he have?
Fields.
Fields, yeah. So I think he just kind of looked at it as like, okay, Darnold's a little redundant. Like, he's not noticeably better than any of these other guys. So, when he's in tank mode, just kind of liquidate and go from there. Don't hate it from his side. I think that what's maybe biasing me a little bit is the Fields trade isn't looking great. But I like the idea of getting a pick in his perspective. So I think I would say probably another one where it's just a solid B for both of them. I think pretty even trade. Nobody knocked it out of the park, but I think both teams got what they were looking for strategically. Probably slightly. Maybe I'll go B+ to Don, because I do like the idea of getting a quarterback for that price, especially with his roster.
Man, I hated it for him. for Don at first. Just because he was 1-3 when he made that trade. Like, Joe Burrow was out for the year, and his team wasn't playing well. So to give up your own first is insanely I feel like too risky. It felt
like a little bit of panic. Yeah, that's fair.
But it's aged very well. Because when they did this trade, that was before Darnold's been awesome these last 2 weeks. It was before Darnold had his good game yet. So I think he had 16 points was his highest when they through 4 weeks when they did this. And so I was like, like, you feel that confident? Like, what if that pick becomes the second overall pick? So that's why I was like a little iffy at Don at first. It has obviously worked out incredibly. I think kind of what we were talking about with JSN. Darnold's proved he's a real quarterback. He can exist without Kevin O'Connell, and there's a good chance he's going to be Seattle's starter for the foreseeable future. And so, yeah, Don essentially bought let's call it a high-end QB2, and I think it's worked out.
I'm not ready to go high-end, but...
Okay, mid-tier. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't run. He's mid-tier QB2. I liked it for Jake. Essentially the same reason you said. I think he looked at it. He's like, okay, Darnold scored the most 16 points. I'm gonna get a first from a team who's 1-3. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't even play this guy. I have the 3 other quarterbacks, and so yeah. I mean, it's worked a little. It was worked out a little less great for Jake. I think why it's worked out a little better for Don, just because how the Seahawks passing game and Darnold has played these last 2 weeks, I think is kind of the thing. Yeah, I think at the time I would have given Don a C and Jake B+. I think now probably they're both kind of a B.
Yeah. One adjacent question. I know we're running long here, but I am curious from your just Seahawks fandom perspective. How are we feeling about the Sam Darnold era?
Incredible. Because there's no Sam Darnold era without also looking at what's happening in Vegas with the Geno Smith era. They're going to be connected, and that exchange has worked out so tremendously for the Seahawks that we knew the defense was going to be good. And honestly, it's not even its full strength yet. Everyone's hurt. But he's making the 15th most money for quarterbacks. It's an incredible deal for how he's playing, and they're a legit playoff contender, and he's a legit starting NFL quarterback. So I think Seattle's incredibly, incredibly pumped on how it all worked out.
Yeah. Good time to be a Seattle sports fan right now. That's for sure.
Dude, Mariners, let's go 1-0. You see they beat the Jays yesterday?
Yeah, I'm not doing the crazy time changes for baseball. I'm not enough of a baseball fan, but yeah, did see that. So that's pretty cool.
Dude, they had a 15-inning game with the Tigers the other day. 15 innings.
Yeah, I'm glad I did not make an effort to watch that.
Jorge Polanco.
But yeah.
Did you even sleep over there? All right. Those are all our trades. What's the most interesting? What's the one that's going to make the biggest impact on how this season shakes out?
I mean, I think it has to be mine.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm biased there, but I think it really gave me, I think, what I need to make a serious push. And I'm hoping, feeling pretty good about walking out of this 2-4. And that was my baseline of hey, if I can go 2-4 until Rice gets back, I feel pretty good. And so, even if I'm sitting at 7th or 8th or whatever, at 2-4, it's there are a couple teams that are in the same or 3-3, and it's if you're only one game back, and I've got some juice there, I think it's really good. But I also think the inverse is true. I really do think Johnny lowered his ceiling a good bit more than he thought, and so I think it really muddles up the, let's call it now, middle tier of our league. I know Johnny's record is awesome, so he's not going to be, I don't think, fighting for a spot in the same way that I am. But I think when it comes to who you want to see in round 1 of the playoffs, I don't think there's nearly as big of a gap between my team and Johnny's as there was 3 weeks ago.
I agree. It's the most important. All right. Episode 23, Crush Fantasy Football Podcast. Live from Phuket. Let me try to spell it. Phuket. Is that correct?
Boom. We got
Let's
it.
go. Boom. All right. Pleasure, Dolan. Think another great episode. We will talk soon.